gone away entirely. The deal still needs to be ratified by union members. If an agreement is not reached before tomorrow, it would cripple the U.S. economy. 50,000 engineers and conductors were ready to picket, leaving fewer options to transport cars, fuel, and Montana-grown crops. We have new details this noon on the shooting at Montana Fair. Police believe two gangs made up of juveniles are responsible, and their use of guns is not slowing down. MTN's Casey Conlon reports.
We showed you the bullet holes in a Southside house over the weekend after a drive-by shooting. The owner says it was the second time they had been hit in several weeks. We now know those are two in several related shooting incidences that started here on the Metro Park Fairgrounds in a shooting at Montana Fair last month.
It definitely appears that these are connected incidents.
BPD Lieutenant Matt Lennox says police have been closely watching two groups of juveniles exhibiting gang-like activity ever since a man was shot in the leg at Montana Fair the night of August 15th. Hours later, Londa Means says bullets hit her Southside house for the first time.
I think it was like 3 in the morning. We heard gunshots and we woke up the next day and found that it was our house.
Means said her 17-year-old son was at the fair earlier on the 15th and got into an altercation.
Started over something minor, over a girl, then it became because they were saying pretty much stupid, mean words to each other that they took offense to.
Yellowstone County Sheriff Mike Linder says his office has identified the person who fired those shots at the fair, but the county attorney's office is still determining whether to file charges, and no arrests have been made at this time. Meanwhile, police say a 17-year-old and 14-year-old have been charged with 6 counts each of assault with a weapon for the second shooting at the Means house that happened this past weekend. Means originally told MTN she didn't know if the shootings might be random, but now believes differently.
It is a big possibility that it might not be random for us.
Do you feel like your son is getting targeted?
Yes, I do.
Another house on the 300 block of Jefferson Street, where Means says one of her son's best friends lives, was hit with bullets earlier this month. Means says her son has attempted to change his lifestyle within the last year.
When he was 16, he was running down the bad road. He had a lot of boys jump him and break his arm.
As bad as that sounds, Lennox says the biggest problem is that fighting no longer seems to be the group's preferred recourse.
The fist fight thing that's not a thing anymore. Unfortunately, they're using gun violence as a way to deal with their conflict.
3 children under the age of 8 were in the house Saturday night when the shooting happened. Lennox says that is everyone's nightmare.
There are definitely people that are true victims that are being caught in the crosshairs in this. I mean, like literally caught in the crosshairs in this situation. So yeah, that is 100% the worst scenario for us.
In Billings, Casey Conlon, MTN News.
New details to report on this week's escape at the Yellowstone County Jail. 3 men are behind bars today, accused of helping Quincy Pfister and Cody Flesh once they were outside of the facility. Joseph Henry Gonzalez, Jeffrey Follett, and Joseph Leon Gonzalez were arrested alongside the escapees Monday night. They all pled not guilty to obstruction. When Pfister was taking the stand, he fell down under the influence, forcing the judge to move his appearance.
Are you impaired this morning in any manner that would prevent you from understanding the nature of these proceedings?
Yeah.
Are you under the influence of any drugs or alcohol this morning?
Yeah.
Bond was set at $1 million for Cody Flesh. All 5 men remain behind bars. Billings police are wrapping up a grueling 8-month investigation into the shooting death of Cohen Parker. 5 suspects, most of them minors, are now charged with killing the 15-year-old and covering it up. MTN's Haley Monaco brings us the very latest.
We are just 2 days away from the 8-month anniversary of Cohen Parker's death. For months, the family has been frustrated by a lack of arrests. Now they finally have some answers. It's a shooting that shocked the city. A 15-year-old boy shot and killed in this Billings Heights parking lot in front of multiple witnesses. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months with no arrests until now.
I'm glad that we finally have somebody that will be held responsible for what happened.
Angie Schmidt is a close friend of Parker's. She's one of many just now learning that at least 5 people will be charged in connection with Parker's death.
I really thought that once we got past that 3-month mark, there wasn't a lot of hope, honestly.
According to court documents, it all began when two groups of teens and young adults met up in a parking lot near Castle Rock Park to settle a dispute. A fight broke out and shots were fired into the air. That led to more weapons and more gunfire. Police later determined Parker was hit in the chest with a 9mm bullet that had ricocheted off the asphalt of the parking lot. That shot, police say, was fired by 16-year-old Andy Grussing. Grussing is now charged with negligent homicide and several other felony charges.
I'm still definitely in shock, but it's absolutely amazing news to finally have answers.
It's unclear whether Grussing was aiming the gun at Cohen Parker. 3 other teens are also facing charges. 16-year-old Ellie Graham and 18-year-old Jesse Myers are charged with felony of obstruction of justice and tampering with evidence and witnesses and several other felonies. 18-year-old Gerald Brady is also charged with tampering with evidence. Ellie Graham's mother is also facing charges. 36-year-old Jewel Graham is accused of obstructing justice for allegedly not giving police her daughter's phone. 3 of the teens are due in court Thursday. Brady and Graham are scheduled to appear before a judge on Friday. In Billings, Haley Monaco, MTN News.
Happy Thursday, everybody. Hopefully, it's been a good day so far as we get closer and closer to the weekend. Fall-like conditions still continuing, and we could see a good bit of rain. We have this flow coming in from the south, area of low pressure out of the southwest, and that's bringing in a lot of rainfall. So maybe off to our west by this evening, and of course down to our southwest, northern parts of Wyoming, and maybe even off to the east, we could see some rain. Not looking like a whole lot of rain in the central part of the region, but we'll definitely keep an eye on that. Temperatures today mainly in the 70s, could see some 60s, especially northern parts of Wyoming. Cold front draped right through the middle of the region. You can see that area of low pressure coming out of the southwest I mentioned. Of course, cooler temperatures. But this time next week, could we see an even bigger cool down? I'll have details coming up.
On Tuesday, lawmakers on the Economic Affairs Interim Committee finalized their bill aimed at cleaning up some of the laws around recreational marijuana sales in Montana. Many of the changes were small and technical in nature, but one major change added on Tuesday would delay the entry of new licensees into the adult use market until 2025. Since the start of recreational marijuana sales in January, only businesses that were already operating in the medical marijuana system before the passage of Initiative 190 in November 2020 have been able to get licenses. That restriction is set to expire at the end of June 2023, but Senator Jason Ellsworth, a Republican from Hamilton, suggested extending it 2 more years, saying he doesn't believe the state needs more licensees and that leaders need longer to see how the system is working before adding more businesses.
Again, we're in the infancy of all this. We've already seen a lot of holes in this. This just gives us more time to see how these changes are actually going to take effect. And I think we need to err on the side of caution here.
Committee members approved adding that change to their bill, though some expressed concerns about the last-minute nature of it. Now, the proposals will go before the full legislature during the 2023 session. Pepper Peterson, CEO of the Montana Cannabis Guild and Industry Group, supports extending the moratorium. He says existing marijuana businesses haven't had a chance to operate under their final regulations yet.
The administrative rule process, which defines how the law is interpreted, is not over for the first set of rules. So before another legislative session changes more rules, we'd like to see those finalized with this same group of people.
On Tuesday, the committee also supported adjusting the effective date of the moratorium. That would allow some medical-only businesses that started after the 2020 election to begin selling adult-use marijuana. One of the biggest changes that had already been included in the proposed bill draft was clarifying some language in the law to make clear that Montana tribes had access to combined use licenses that they could use to start and expand their own marijuana businesses. In Helena, Jonathan Amberian, MTN News.